Hello and welcome to Connect, the weekly podcast for the California MBA, featuring one-on-one interviews with movers and shakers in the mortgage industry. I'm Susan Milazzo, CEO of the California MBA, and I'm very happy that you could join us today. Before I get to today's guests, I'd like to thank our 2023 President's Council sponsors. Now, these are a handful of companies that provide a tremendous amount of financial support for the California MBA, in particular so that we can continue to be that strong voice for the real estate finance industry before the California State Legislature and our regulators. So I want to take this opportunity to thank our 2023 President's Council sponsors. They are AmeriHome, Arch MI, Consolidated Analytics, Funding Shield, Incelerate, Guild Mortgage, Rocket Mortgage, and Western Alliance Bank. Thank you all so much for your support for the California MBA. Really appreciate that. We will now turn to today's guest. I'm very happy to be welcoming somebody I've had the pleasure of knowing for many, many years, the California MBA, Gordon Gerson with Gerson Law Firm. Welcome, Gordon.
Thank you. Thank you for having me today.
Yeah, I was very happy, as I shared with you when we were chatting right before this. I was very happy that you wanted to be on Connect. You've certainly been a big part of Western States CREF and some of the commercial efforts that we've put out in the California MBA over the years. So that was it was nice to welcome you to Connect. I always like to get started with kind of how you got started in the industry, and in particular, having a firm that focuses on commercial real estate finance transactions.
Well, there's many chapters to the story, but to give you the Cliff Notes version, when I graduated from law school in the late 1970s and was getting my feet wet as a lawyer, real estate and real estate finance was viewed as a very glitzy area of practice, much like high tech and life science legal practices are viewed today. So it was a very, very sexy sector of law to be practicing in. On the other hand, particularly real estate finance was a very waspish sector. And if you didn't fit that WASP mold, it was very, very hard to get into or have that as a primary practice area. So what was my specialty back in those years? Whatever anybody needed. I did divorces, I did child custodies, okay, I did personal injury. I even went down to the county jail on a handful of occasions to pick up friends and friends of friends who've been picked up on DUIs. But by the early 1980s, okay, the economy was really bad. Okay, we always think in terms of recessions as the current one and the last one. But since the 1980s, we've had probably four. And during the early 1980s was when I really got beginnings, okay, to represent clients for matters related to real estate finance. What was that? There were a lot of hard money lenders. Today we call hard money lenders private lenders. But there were a lot of big, major hard money lenders, just like we have maybe a big six now, who all but one in Southern California filed bankruptcy. And there was literally hundreds of millions of dollars being lost at that point in time. And one by one, I was engaged to represent groups of investors who had invested in mortgages with these companies that were now in bankruptcy. They were in bankruptcy, and also the loans were bad. So I got a taste of bankruptcy practice at that point in time, as well as, getting my feet wet, okay, or getting to start on the learning curve of really how to understand and manage real estate finance matters, although it was primarily related to hard money lending, or as I say, what today we euphemistically call private lending. So by word of mouth, okay, I was representing investors, okay, into real estate finance. That ultimately led to a few opportunities to represent um, uh, two private lenders, okay, who weren't having problems, albeit 10 years later, they too failed. In that phase, okay, representing them as lenders, I was dealing not with loan originations, okay, and mortgage financing on the good loan side of the business, but I was dealing with bad loans. I was dealing with receiverships in state court and relief of stay actions, in bankruptcy court. And then things just, started to roll. I started representing local banks in San Diego. Had a handful of, more than a handful of local banks that I was representing. And then we come to the triple dip recession of the 1990s. Almost every bank I had, in fact, every bank I had was either merged out of existence and taken over by the RTC. So then I was back to working on bad loans again, and did that for a few years. But really, when people ask me, or whenever I'm telling the story of our practice, I always try to pause at this point, because it was really then that we were able to develop a national practice, because lenders from across the country, companies from across the country were purchasing portfolios of loans from the RTC, the Resolution Trust Corporation, which loans we were handling, because they were loans that were originally with banks that we represented. And all of a sudden, they were being represented by servicers in Kansas City, Midland, which is now PNC Midland. There were servicers in Austin, all across the country. And we did hundreds of relief of stay receiverships, forbearance agreements, matters like that. But then the big opportunities came, because as we came out of the third dip of that recession, all those people migrated to loan origination positions, and we were able to make the swing with them. So that's pretty much how I got into commercial real estate finance. I'd say the best chapters started, after the recessions of the 1990s to where we are today.
Isn't it interesting? You can look back into your career and think, boy, how you felt, when you were, your clients were going through the recession, and there was so many challenges and so much difficulty you saw. But then, really what came of that was really the launch of your national practice, which is it's kind of cool to look back and things like that in our careers, I think.
Right.
So, you've got a long history in commercial real estate finance. 2023 is another one of those challenging years, rising interest rates. What kind of property types do you see faring well this year in this environment?
Well, first of all, with respect to being a challenging year, I find it unlike any year or time period other than the immediate aftermath of 6 to 8 months after 9/11. We're in a time period now where, because of the interest rate environment, financing, is not hot. Okay, there's not hot money out there. Respect to where we are, I get probably 5 to 8 real estate blogs per day, and all these opinionators say either the worst is behind us, or it's still going to get worse before it gets better. So that's, I think a macro way, or my macro comments, I should say, in terms of where we are right now. In terms of property types, I think it's fairly well acknowledged that industrial, has remained, very strong. And it's multifamily. However, the caveats with those two is that even in those two sectors, the cap rates have gone up. And so you have really a disconnect between sellers and buyers. Sellers want a price, buyers want a price, but they're not on the same line. Additionally, you have the issue of on the if you're on the acquisition side of the table, what your financing is going to be. So there's not the level of activity that we would see normally. At this point, my mantra is let's see more in 24 and hope we're still alive in 25.
Well, that's a good phrase. I think if people are feeling a lot of that right now. As I look at your career, you have been honored with some pretty impressive recognition. Best Lawyers in America several times, and Southern California Super Lawyers, along with some other accolades over the years. How does that type of recognition about your continual success and outstanding leadership in your field, what does that mean to you?
It means a lot about people who I work with. Okay, I have an incredible group of lawyers that I work with, and we have for many years. I sometimes joke that we have taken many unhirables and turned them into highly desirables because we seem to be a grooming ground for the DLA Pipers and the Dentons of the world. But we take people, we train them, and we just have good people, and that really creates the recognition that I receive, which I think so oftentimes is unfair. In fact, I'm more inclined to put on our website recognition that the firm has received as opposed to me as an individual. But frankly, it's all about having a brand, and our brand is expertise in the area of real estate and real estate finance, coupled with the fact that we have reasonable fees and we are rapidly responsive to our clients' needs, to our client requests.
Well, congratulations on that. I mean, you do have an incredible firm, and when I look at all the recognition that you've received over the years, definitely everyone else sees it too. So congratulations on that. And you've had a long career, successful career. What advice would you give somebody just starting out?
One is you need to really be relentless in pursuing what you want to do. I tell people quite often, young people quite often, sending out emails saying I'd like to talk to you, or are you hiring? Those emails are the fastest emails to delete in your inbox, and I think too much is done that way. Look, I started law and started building this practice pre-email, pre-internet. Okay, and yet we knocked on doors. Okay, I mean, I literally walked into some of the local banks and knocked on doors. Okay, to develop my practice. Okay, I believe even today that is more successful approach to developing, a reputation and growth in a particular field, including real estate and real estate finance. I mean, taking myself out of the equation, one of the most successful people I know in the insurance industry in Southern California built up his insurance company doing the exact same thing. He would go sit in waiting rooms outside the C-suite, sometimes waiting 2 to 3 hours, okay, to get to see someone who we'd never had an appointment with. And bringing that home, I met with a young lawyer, law student, a very, very bright young man who I'd been asked to see by a colleague from Washington, D.C. The young man was a second-year law student at USD, and he came into my office in a suit with a necktie. I mean, number one, he was doing something quite unusual to make himself stand out today. I mean, to have on a wool suit as opposed to just fabric pants and t-shirt. But he told me that, he was really discouraged because he'd applied to about 25 law firms in San Diego, and he wasn't getting anything. And this is the area of practice that he really wanted to be in. And he asked if I had any recommendations. And I said to do exactly what I had done, what I said this insurance guy had done. I said, go sit in reception rooms. Okay, take your resume, hand them to the receptionist, and just sit. Be ready to sit for a long time. Don't leave. My colleague from Washington, D.C., who had asked that I see him, called me up about a week and a half ago and told me that the young man got a phenomenal summer job. Okay, I think he's going to get paid. I think it was like $3,000 or $4,000 a week. And he said, Gordon, he actually sat in someone's reception area until they came out. So again, I believe you need to take a non-technology touch, okay, to getting it. The other thing is, if you are going to be interviewed by Zoom, and I probably should have followed this today, be more than just a face on the screen. One young man I know who recently prepared a whole presentation, okay, of graphs and video charts and visuals, okay, to insert on the screen during his Zoom interview. I mean, that to me was really, really impressive. Okay, and if I had been hiring, okay, that would have knocked me off my feet, and I would have said, I want to have that guy. I think, second of all, networking opportunities are very, very important. Clearly, that's where the California Mortgage Bankers Association provides many opportunities for people, young people, as well as others who want to be involved in the real estate finance industry. But I think today you also need to look out for other unique opportunities to network. You want to go where the crowd isn't. Well, you want a crowd to be there, but the crowd who you're with, okay, who need jobs or who want to market, okay, you don't want to be with them. You want to be where no one else is. And I think that is just very, very important. And then I think lastly, the most important thing is to ask, how can I really make it clear that I am relevant? Okay, relevancy, it's not just a cliche. I mean, it's something I think really meaningful, and it's something that I think you have to, it's part of branding yourself and making it clear to others that you are unique. You bring unique abilities and capabilities to the table, and you deserve a seat at the table.
I think that is great advice, and certainly somebody that is just starting their career, they definitely need to hear that. I think that, I too started my career when we didn't have the internet or emails, and you had to look in somebody's eyes and shake their hand and give them your business card and make that personal connection. So I think that's great advice.
Yeah.
You have been a big supporter for the California MBA and our Western States CREF Conference happening in September, for which I'm very, very grateful. I'd love for you to share with our listeners why you support our organization.
First of all, in an era of he, she, it, I believe that the California Mortgage Bankers Association is not just it, but it is a big it. It is the place for anybody in California who wants to be in the crowd of mortgage real estate finance to be. There are other organizations. I don't know whether to refer to them as copycats or the equivalent of AAA and AA baseball, but the CMBA is the major league, and it's the major organization. So I think that in and of itself is one of the strongest reasons why I support the CMBA. It's also interesting to see who leads the CMBA. The people who lead the CMBA are really leaders in the industry. If there was no CMBA, they'd still be names that we all recognize as leaders in the industry. And the great thing about this industry, and particularly the leaders of the MBA, there's no elitism. Everyone shares. Everyone wants to do whatever they can to help others. I tend to say this about other law firms, and I'd like to say this, like to think that lenders say this about each other. I don't view other law firms as my competition or my competitors. I view them my colleagues. And so when I go to the California Mortgage Bankers Association conferences, I have a chance to see my colleagues, and I have a chance to see a lender or a number of lenders that I represent and their colleagues. So it's a very collegial atmosphere, not to mention a fun one. If you like to party, it's a great place to party. They party hard. Susan, I remember the days when we would be out partying late into the evening or early morning hours. I don't generally see anyone after 9:30 at night. I'm now in bed getting ready to attack the next day.
Well, we really appreciate all the years that you've supported Western States CREF and the California MBA. And Gordon, thank you so much for being on Connect. You've shared some great insights and advice for people in the industry, and I just really appreciate you being a part of the podcast.
Thank you. I really appreciate having this opportunity and any opportunity to work with the California Mortgage Bankers Association, because any day there's an opportunity like this is a very good day.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much. And thanks to all of you for joining us on today's episode of Connect. To access any of our past episodes, you can follow us on our YouTube channel. We're also available on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. That's it for this week, and we'll see you next time on Connect.